Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
That's good. Thanks for doing another podcast. It's good to be here.
Oh, good to be back again.
Yes, yes, indeed. I'm. How inebriated is the plan going to be for this podcast?
Very minor.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we didn't get any donations, so no one's buying my alcohol.
That's
Therefore,
that's true. Actually, no one gave me anything and said it was for you. So,
oh, but you got some.
no. Oh, did I get? I think I got maybe one extra person started giving me $1.
Nice.
Um, but they didn't send me a message with that, so I'm not sure why.
Fair enough.
But they wouldn't go very far on the alcohol budget anyway.
No, that'd be like a quarter of a shot or something, which is probably how much I have drunk
Yep.
this evening. So,
All right. Cool.
ladies and gentlemen, you're getting what you're paying for.
That's right. All right. We shall get to it. Before we do anything on your mind in particular, this this month, this past 2 months.
Um, Minorly just surprised at how much time has gone past since the last one, but besides that.
Cool. Cool. Let's get underway. I'll just bring the questions up. The first one is, what's your take on Clubhouse? I don't know what Clubhouse is. Do you know what that is?
All I can think of is like Mickey Mouse. Mickey
Yeah,
Mouse Clubhouse.
I don't know. What's Clubhouse? I'm just going to type Clubhouse in a web browser and see what
So it
comes
says
up.
they're like a link included. As much as we hate links, sometimes they are required when we don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
There's no, they didn't give me a link, but if I type Clubhouse into Google, the first thing that comes up is an article from The Guardian saying Clubhouse app, what it is and how do you get an invite. So
Oh, we're not invited.
we're not invited. We're out of the Clubhouse.
We're not in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
No, we are not. So I guess our thoughts are nil.
Mm.
So yeah, apologies.
We are not the cool kids. I thought we would have established that a long time ago.
Apparently, some people are taking a while to figure that out.
Mm.
This person also said, "What about a podcast of Kpopalypse being the one drunk, or at least tipsy?" Um, to which I will say, "I don't drink, so ain't gonna happen."
Ah, I was going to say the ball's in your court for that one, and that's over before we can even get started.
Yeah, yeah, I don't drink. I never have. So
Hmm.
um, there we go. Sorry, not
Not
gonna
gonna lie,
happen.
you kind of struck me as the potential alcoholic type, so that's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I guess probably some people might be a bit surprised given that I don't know. I'm,
Australian culture and all that shit.
yeah, A being Australian and two me being a complete cunt, they
Mm.
might figure, oh, he's probably an alcoholic. But no, no, I don't drink. I never have. Um, but they did enjoy the last podcast apparently, so they say, have a
Mm.
great day, keep safe. So we're still here, so I guess we're safe.
Any
Um,
particular reason you don't drink?
well,
Just like seeing what it does to other people and not wanting to.
here's how it is, right? Like when I was very young, I couldn't, and still to this day, I couldn't drink fizzy drinks.
Hmm.
So I can't drink Coca-Cola and stuff like that. I just have a little bit of that stuff, and it doesn't take me much, and I'll feel nauseous.
Hmm.
Anything with bubbles in it. So it's really kind of hard to go from you know drinking. You sort of you lack that sort of gateway drink. Because
Hmm.
people usually go to beer, and then they find out spirits and stuff like that. So if you don't drink anything fizzy, you're going straight from stuff which is not alcoholic to stuff which is very alcoholic, generally speaking, and it just tastes like crap.
Hmm.
And I just don't really enjoy the taste of it. I mean, as I got older, I have found some drinks that aren't too bad, but the thing is, by the time I actually realised that there was more than just beer, I didn't even know that spirits were things that existed until I was in my 20s. Um, by the time I found out about that stuff, I'd also been in the music industry for a while, and I'd met so many people who had, trashed their bodies with alcohol that I thought, well, maybe I should just not start.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and also alcohol just tastes bad to me. Like, there's a few drinks I don't mind. I think Bailey's tastes okay, but I think an iced coffee tastes better. I think Kahlua milk tastes okay, but once again, a milk drink without the alcohol would taste better.
Mm.
Um, you
Yeah,
know,
it's more you're drinking for the effect of it when you are drinking. So
well, that's the thing. People drink to get drunk. They don't drink because they love the taste of alcohol. No one really likes it, and that's why you have all these drinks that are designed to, make the taste of alcohol as tolerable as possible. And I just couldn't be bothered getting through that. Um, uh, I couldn't be bothered drinking 10 drinks I hate the taste of just so I can get drunk. You
mm.
know, it's just too gross. I don't have the I don't have the discipline to be an alcoholic. um, I want my gratification now. I want the drink to taste good straight away. I don't want to have to tolerate 2 hours of awful tasting drinks and then feel good. I want to feel good immediately. So I don't have the mental discipline required to get drunk.
Hmm.
So
The
that's the
more you
reason for
know.
it. Question from a reader. Let's say you started a K-pop company and you are given the chance to transfer one and only one idol from any company or group you like. Which idol would you take?
Oh, like who am I snatching from another company?
I guess they're talking about taking an idol from uh, another company and bringing it over to your company. And they're saying, which idol would you take? And they're saying female idol since we already know the answer for male.
Yeah, like I'm snatching my son, giving him a better home. Who am I stealing? Probably freeing Rose from the YG dungeon.
Yeah.
Again, probably a bit of an obvious one as well for
Yeah, I
folks.
guess I guess it's been for anyone who's following your social media, I'd say that's fairly obvious. But if
True,
you
but I am quite low key these days, so it's fair enough that people aren't up to date on all of my faves and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yes, answer is Rose.
Okay, there we go. For me, who would I steal? Um, I don't know, probably someone, maybe Irene from Red Velvet, because no one likes her at the moment. So, um, and then I could pick her brains
Hmm.
about, you know, bullying techniques and stuff.
Yeah, apparently like pissing off stylists or something like that is a crime against humanity in Korea. So
I can pick her brains for my BDSM fanfic that I'm writing about her.
so
Make it
that's
as
your little thing you're working on at the moment.
yeah. Well, people that was answer one of my survey questions is what fanfic do you want to see, and that wasn't the top answer, but I thought well that's probably the answer with the most potential for a story. And I mean I don't really write sort of sexual stories really,
Mm.
and so I mean if you read through all my fiction, none of it's really about sex. If
Mm.
there's any sexual content, it's sort of always sort of sidestepped because I don't really like writing about sex. I think it's actually a really boring thing to write about. All the stuff around sex is kind of interesting, but the actual sex itself is actually narratively boring, I think.
Mm.
So, um, so I've been thinking about different ways to make a BDSM fanfic. Um, so my idea of a BDSM fanfic is that the BDSM's not going to be, um,
Explicit?
well, well, when I think about writing a BDSM fanfic, I'm not thinking about Irene being the dom and some other character or the reader or whatever being the sub. I kind of think of myself being the dom and the readers being the sub and Irene being the whip or something like that. So I'm thinking if someone really wants a BDSM fanfic, um, then I'll give them as much BDSM as they can handle, but I'll do it in a way where Irene's the conduit rather than the actual, not the sort of BDSM they want. Because if I'm giving them the BDSM that they want, then it's not really, uh,
Like a Kpopalypse experience.
yeah, and it's kind of weak. I mean, anyone can write sort of jack off material and put it on, Asian fanfics or whatever. But I just find that really boring. Um,
I would also point out that, the typical thing you're obviously going to hear is, ew, gross old pedo man or whatever is sexualizing idols
mm,
because you're writing that. But at the same time, it's like, how many of those fics already exist on, as you just say,
yeah,
Asian fanfics or whatever? Tumblr is the other one I think that.
yeah. Oh, there's a few. But BDSM isn't really, when you get down to it, it's not really about sex anyway. Doms who work in the sex industry doing BDSM work generally don't have sex with their clients.
Mm.
It's not actually sexual.
But
Um,
it's like control and stuff.
yeah, it's more about power and control and things like that. I mean, I knew a dom uh, who had a few clients and very very rich clients. Her clients are all like lawyers and judges and people like that, and they would people who have a lot of power in their day to day life, so they're seeking an outlet where they have no power. And one client that she had, what he would do is he would come round to her house and he would clean her oven and then give her like I don't know $400 or whatever and then leave, and that was it. That was a BDSM, and all she have to do is stand there and say, you missed a bit, stuff like that, and
Are you still in contact? Would you be able to give me their number?
that's what everyone says. um,
Yeah, I wonder why.
yeah. Um, so so it's a classic example, right, of how it's not really, yeah,
Yeah.
BDSM. I mean, it can have a sexual element, but it doesn't by default.
Yeah, it's not like the 50 Shades thing everyone kind of
No,
assumes it, which is also why the people who were originally in the community like hated 50 Shades when it became a thing.
I haven't actually read or seen any 50 Shades content at all, so I
I
can't
just
really comment.
know about it from how much everyone talks about it, and I think I've read like little excerpts from when people are taking the piss out of it, and you're like, whoa, that is terrible. How did that get published?
So,
Fun fact, circling back around almost to like a point you were making, that
yeah,
50 Shades was Twilight fanfic too. So back on our fanfic.
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so BDSM is sort of more psychological, and so while I'm writing this, I'm thinking about that sort of stuff. And I'm not quite sure where it's going to go yet because I sort of write them in my head. I have it
Mm.
semi-written in my head, but I don't exactly know what's going to happen. But we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be out before this podcast comes out. Just depends on how inspired I get.
Interesting.
Anyway, we will move to the next question, which is if if Pokemon were real, do you think that people would try to fuck them? Do you think there would be laws to prevent people from trying to fuck them?
Well, as disturbing as a question as this is, I mean, the existence of furries kind of would probably be the answer to that. As in, yeah, people pretty. I mean, isn't there like that rule on the internet that there's like, if there's something exists, there's porn out of it. So,
Do furries actually dress up as Pokemon though?
I don't know. Like, I'd assume
It's
there's
more about
probably some
being,
sort of
yeah,
subcategory of them.
yeah,
I think like furries as a thing are actually more you create your own character, but I think I'm generalizing a bit here.
mm,
But yeah, I think that, to answer that question, there's people who would. I think we all know that there's people who would.
yes, um,
And I would hope for like the sake of the poor Pokemon who exist that there would therefore be laws against that. Kind of like animal protection.
what if the Pokemon's consenting?
Well, it's
How do
kind of
you
like
just,
animal protection in terms of like, a dog can't consent to some of the bestiality shit that certain people want to do to them. So,
mm, but could a Pokemon though? I mean, I don't know, what would they be
well,
like?
Pokemon, have you ever watched it?
Oh, years ago, 20 years ago maybe.
Yeah, they're not really that like they're very. That's why I'm using the animal comparison because they're not really like capable of looking after themselves. They're very much like animal level intelligence.
Oh, right, okay. All right, well,
So
it's
yeah,
just,
it's the animal comparison. So
okay.
therefore, why I think it should be illegal to fuck Pokemon.
Mm. Um, Speaking of which, this ties into our next question. On the internet, there's a meme or stereotype that white women like to fuck dogs. Is there any truth to
Ew.
this?
From my personal experience, God no. I think it's just like unfortunate sections of the internet where people are disgusting, and I think it's
I've never
white
heard
women.
about white women in particular being.
I don't know. I think it's just white women doing crazy shit that probably led to that.
I
I
think
don't know.
I
I
think all
wouldn't go.
people do crazy shit. I wouldn't say that's domain of white women in particular.
But I don't know.
Who bothers to count the race and gender of people and how much crazy shit they do? People.
Statisticians.
Mm. Which K-pop female artist would you cast in a remake of 1915 film The Birth of a Nation?
Oh, that's your KKK propaganda film.
Yeah.
So
So all
we
the
probably
usual
had,
suspects. Come on,
yeah,
I've
we've
answered
probably
various
had this
versions of this.
question just in different formats.
Yeah, so we'll skip it. It's boring.
Yeah.
There's, have you seen the film The Neon Demon, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn? Don't know if I'm pronouncing that. It's about the hyper-competitiveness of the fashion industry, the low shelf life of models, the existence of the casting couch, etc.
Huh.
K-pop fans familiar with the workings of K-pop and idol industry might really dig it for the obvious parallels that can be drawn. Oh,
Good recommendation. I haven't seen it, but from the sound of what's being described, it's very relevant.
yeah, I'll put it on my list of films to download from Totally Legal Films R Us and have a look.
Yes.
Um,
Support the music and film industry, children.
yes, and but yeah, if they do a good job of it, then I'll be certainly keen to check it out.
Hmm.
No.
Well, I'm currently in the process of getting through the 4-hour Snyder Cut of Justice League.
Mm.
So probably won't get around to watching another film for about 10 weeks, given my very short attention span.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to finish this and recover from it before I can then move on to other films.
What does the recovery involve? What do you have to recover?
I don't know. It's just mentally, it's like, oh shit, got to watch another movie again. I don't know. I tend to like, do I watch a movie? I don't really watch that many movies because it's just, I don't know. Movies are long and I've got to pay attention to them, and I have a very short attention span.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of that, like, I'm literally playing a mobile game as we're having this podcast because I could literally not sit still for like a whole hour that we talk. Usually when we are having these, I'm doing something else on the side as well. And
Cool.
that's not me being disrespectful to your podcast. It's just my complete lack of ability to focus on one thing at a time.
That's fine. We're very inclusive here at Kpopalypse.com,
Mm-hmm.
so we will allow you to continue the podcast in the manner that best serves your ability to do so.
Thank you.
Um, Next question. Oh my God, some bit of shade here.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be pushing 30 and living in your parents' basement?
I'm not in the basement. I'm in my own room. Thank you very much.
Well,
Um,
Australia
it,
doesn't really have basements.
no.
That's more of an American thing. Because most Australian soil is actually limestone, so it's really hard to dig through. That's why
Hmm.
there's not many houses with basements. Just
I've always wondered why there wasn't, because I think they'd be very practical. So there's the answer for that.
yeah, I've always liked the idea of having basements. I think they're kind of cool. I'd love to live in a house with a basement, but that's the
Exactly. I'd
reason.
be pretty fucking happy if I could at least have a basement. Then I'd get my own level.
But yeah, that's why it's very rare for a house in Australia to have a basement, and that's the reason why, because the soil here is just a real cunt,
Mm-hmm.
and no one wants to dig through all that really harsh soil. So there you go.
How does it feel? I mean, eh. I've been dead inside for a very long time. I don't think the property in which I live is going to make much of a difference to that.
Charming.
Thank you. Like, I mean, I lived out of home twice, 3 times?
Mm.
Yeah, 3 times. I've lived out of home 3 times. And then the reason that I had to move back was, one was a change of job, two was when I was studying overseas and came back again, and the third time was last year during like a whole ass pandemic. So it's not exactly my fault that the job that I worked I lost because of a pandemic, and then I had to move into a stable place to live.
Yep.
And yeah, like looking at property options, etc. Like, now I'm not as affected in the pandemic as I was this time last year. So like there's options at moving eventually, but it's like, have y'all seen the economy lately? I mean, it's like, not really that much of a drag, to be honest, for someone to not be able to afford to live outside of home by themselves.
Yeah, it's not, you know, it's tough times. So
Like, Australia is one of the most expensive countries in the world to live. Fun fact for anybody wondering.
mm.
Like, Sydney was insane. Yeah, it's
Sydney's
like,
apparently more expensive than New York to live in.
it is.
Yeah.
It's like narrowly just not as expensive as Hong Kong, but like only slightly.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's like I'm not gonna beat myself up for it when it's like if I move out of home, I want to live by myself. Like I don't want roommates. I don't want to get married. I don't want to live in a share house.
Mm.
So, what options really are there for people to be able to afford to live alone?
Mm.
Very, very few. So if I can't afford to live entirely on my own, then I will at least stay with my parents who like know my habits, conditions, etc.
Yep.
Don't try to force me to leave the house, as in going out socially.
Yep.
Not a fan.
Mm.
And I don't want people like, bringing other people into my house. That's the good thing about my parents. They're just as antisocial as I am. Whereas if I have like housemates, then they have other people who come over, and it's like, who the fuck is this in my house?
Yeah, that is the thing. If you've got housemates.
Yeah, so I don't
Mm.
want that.
Yep. Have you ever been attacked or chased down by a magpie?
Yes, they are demon spawn. I was attacked when I was like 12, and it was just walking through an alleyway that was near my school. And it just so happened that my school had like a section of trees that were magpie occupied, and I got jumped by like 5 of them at once.
Oh my God.
So, like, 12-year-old response, just run away screaming.
It's a magpie gang.
Managed to survive,
Yeah.
barely.
Yeah, I've been attacked twice. Um, once, I think, um, when I was doing audio engineering school, there was some magpies near there, and
Ugh.
they'd dive bomb me, and
Yeah.
I'd have to swing my bag at them, and that
Mm.
just pissed them off even more.
Hmm.
And then more recently, when I was riding my bike, um, I actually got hit on the back of the head,
Yeah.
and it felt like someone threw a rock at me. I was turning around, and I couldn't see
Like, who
anyone.
the fuck did that? And it's a fucking magpie.
And then I looked up, and there's a magpie just sitting on the power line. I'm like, yeah, you did it,
You.
you fuck. So, yes, that was a thing. Didn't get injured, but it wasn't much fun. They are bastards.
They are, and it's like, I think people don't really get how actually dangerous they are.
Hmm.
Like, haha, magpie swooped you, lol. It's also like, they can take your eye out. Like, people have had serious injuries from magpies.
Yeah, they're pretty fucking brutal, to be honest. So you have
They
to
are.
be careful. Here's one. What's your favourite Bible verse?
Ah, the one about like, oh geez, um, like let's see, how many people get to go to heaven in Revelations?
Hmm.
Is like, the Revelations is the book that tells you all about how the world's going to end, and I wouldn't be able to quote the specific verse or whatever, but it's like it goes into like how many people will inherit the earth and how much space the earth will have. It's very specific. And like me being a 12-year-old at the time who was like, very high strung
Mm.
and terrified of the concept of death, decided to like manually calculate the surface area of the earth and then figure out um like what square area per person is ideal inhabitant. So it's like,
Mm.
if there's X amount of people on Earth and however many people, how much surface area do we get? Let's pretend everyone gets 1 square meter because personal space in the
Mm.
afterlife. How much space is needed for X amount of people? And I think I ended up figuring out it was something like either 3 million or 3 billion.
Right.
people would be able to fit into this new paradise. And I was like, sure, but then there's double that population currently on Earth, and then let's factor in 2,000 years since Jesus died.
Mm.
That's a lot of people and not enough room for everyone.
Well, but it doesn't say anything about hell and how many people can fit there, does it? So you can just assume that
Yeah,
everyone else is going down there. I mean,
which is very contradictory of a supposedly loving God, is like creating a place for suffering all eternity, don't you think?
yeah, it is kind of odd. But
Yeah.
but look, I think that heaven's obviously going to be quite sparsely populated everyone anyway because everyone's a cunt. So
Mm.
I think there'll be plenty of room. There'll be plenty of room for your mansion and a nice big garden and some maids and stuff. But my favourite Bible verse, it must be Song of Solomon, the poem in there where the guy's raving on about the girl's breasts or whatever, which is pretty much I'm pretty sure that's why in the Middle Ages the monks wanted to keep the Bible to themselves because it was basically porn. Because I think they were all jacking off to the Song of Solomon because that was the closest thing to printed pornography we had back then. It's like they didn't want the plebeians to read it.
That, and it would just, expose all their hypocrisy.
Yeah, it hasn't really mattered, has it?
Yeah.
Um,
Scott Morrison's still getting voted for, so.
yeah, it's it. So people are willing to believe all sorts of falsehoods, obviously. So, um, do you prefer Pizza Hut or Domino's, and what pizza toppings do you go for?
Domino's has improved in the pizza quality
Okay.
over the last few years or so. Like, I totally understand how people think it tastes like cardboard because, like, 10 years ago it did. But
Mm.
then, like, a few years ago, like, they had this whole campaign on the ads about we've revamped our recipes, and everyone's been like, yeah, sure, under new management, etc. It's always a thing they say. But then my
Mm.
friends and I actually ordered it one time because it was just where we lived and that was what was available. Pretty good.
There you go. So
And,
better than Pizza Hut.
I haven't really tried Pizza Hut in a long time to be able to make an accurate comparison, so
Mm.
maybe Pizza Hut is good too. My favorite pizza to order is peri peri chicken.
Rightio.
And if I were to actually go into slightly more detail, I would actually be preferring crust pizza as my
All right.
chain of choice in Australia.
Yeah, I haven't eaten Pizza Hut. I haven't eaten Domino's ever, and I
Hmm.
haven't eaten Pizza Hut since I was probably about 20 years old, a long time ago. Back in
I
nine.
remember that I used to have like an all-you-can-eat pizza bar.
Mm,
I don't know if it's that Pizza Hut. Whatever that was pretty good.
okay. Yeah, I used to like. I can't even remember what I used to eat. Um, I'll pretty much only have ever have pizza. Probably the only time I ever eat pizza is just before a show. If I'm
Hmm.
playing a show, if I'm playing a gig, um, and if there happens to be pizza around, that's the
Yeah.
only time I'll ever have it. Um, Mainly because I know I'll burn off the energy. Um, Other than that, it's just not a go-to. And but if I have to have pizza toppings, I'll usually vegetarian because it's the least scary,
Hmm.
least likely to give me food poisoning. Although I usually say no olives because I don't like olives.
Hmm.
They taste like gross little bugs.
I don't know. I don't mind olives. They're kind of salty.
I like olive oil, but I don't like olives. I'm not sure why. I don't know how that logic works.
I
Given
know.
that,
I like the savor. I like savory things as well. Like I
mm,
really like sweet things, but I don't like it as a meat.
all right,
My meat's salty and savory.
there you go. Have you
Although
tried?
I know that olive is not a meat. I'm just saying it's pizza based, so I'm assuming therefore
Yeah,
that is the topic. Anyway.
all good. Next question is: have you tried doing heavy metal growling vocals before?
Oh, I can't do it because I'm, again, living at home with my parents pushing 30 in their basement and they don't appreciate me screaming at, like, when I'm in their house. I don't think at any time unless they're not in the house, then maybe I could, but yeah. I know it's actually quite, a difficult thing to do properly Like it's like any sort of vocals, there is a proper technique to use for it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's metal singers who do all the sort of stuff, they've got to use the same techniques that other singers use.
And it's like
Otherwise, they do
weirdly
fuck their
close to
throat.
opera or something.
It's all the same sort of breathing techniques are required in any sort of vocal, in any sort of singing vocals. Basically, the principle of it is all the same. Essentially that you're not using your throat muscles, but you're pushing the air up from down below.
Yeah, through your diaphragm.
Yeah, and using bigger muscles, so you're not wearing out your throat.
Ah.
So, otherwise, because I can sit there and go, but if I don't do it right, 30 seconds later, I can't talk.
Exactly.
But
it is a dangerous, it's, you say that and you almost want to laugh at how stupid that sounds. Like, oh, it's dangerous. I'm gonna do a voice and I'm gonna hurt myself with my silly voices, but you actually can. Like, it will legit fry your vocal cords.
Well, you can with normal singing too. If you sing properly, and you're not, the same thing will happen. You'll fuck your throat in one
I think
song.
it's just because that type of singing is more strenuous, which is why you're more likely to, I guess, cause an injury.
It's not even really that more strenuous. It just sounds more strenuous. It's more, it's a more, edgy sort of sound or whatever you want to call it. But the techniques are the same, really.
I think, like, in my mind, I see it as more strenuous because I could, like, hypothetically see and go la 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 and attempt to poorly stay on key or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily strain my vocal cords. So again, it's like if I was to, I think it's about as strenuous as, say, belting is versus, say, falsetto.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I don't want to talk about vocals too much because K-pop fans like that shit way too much.
We are not here to please you. Get the fuck off our podcast.
If they had a military draft in Australia, what would you do?
I don't know.
This person says often female US infantry would get themselves pregnant on purpose to avoid deployment to the field. Excuse me. Bit of a hiccup.
No, I'd rather die than have a child. So pass on that option.
So
I don't know. What's like? I don't know, I'd be a draft dodger because, like, fuck the police and fuck the military. I'm not dying for some government's oil war.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was always really terrified of being drafted when I was older. I didn't realise that the draft would be abolished by the time I actually got older.
Yeah.
The draft isn't really relevant anymore, at least not in this country. But it was one of my big fears was going into the army. And it's not the look, I don't think having to shoot people or be shot by people would be that much of a concern. But what would really bother me is just being yelled at in training. I wouldn't get past training. I would meet that that Full Metal Jacket style drill instructor, and I'd just tell him to go fuck himself, and I always wouldn't do anything they wanted, and they'd just have to get rid of me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably, like, all of my mental illnesses combined would probably disqualify me from service anyway.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like, they don't let you in if you've got certain amounts of pre-existing conditions, and my lungs are fucked, so,
Yeah, you probably wouldn't pass the physical.
Love that for me.
and I was really, really real weakling when I was young, so I wouldn't have been able to do a push-up and stuff like that. I was real skinny, and yeah, I think they would have took one look at me and said, nah. Get out.
You're going to be a Steve Rogers. Is Captain America, but before he got the serum.
Yeah, something like that.
Pop culture. I'm good at pop culture and trivia, by the way.
Cool.
Invite me onto your team, any listeners?
There you go. Any TV spots coming up? You need an extra member? AustralianSana will do it. She has experience.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, so there you go. During your period of fighting with armies over BTS playing in Saudi Arabia, did you ever get accused of being a white saviour?
Oh, Jesus. Just first off, hearing that question, I just heard during your period, and I was just like, what?
Not that period.
Yeah, I totally got accused of being a white saviour. That's like their go-to insult for any person who is white who then does attempt to care about social justice on the platform because, If you don't care, then you're part of white privilege and the white problem enabling it. But if you do care, then you're a white savior. And obviously, in real life terms, that's not how it works. But in terms of how the internet views things,
Yes.
like not wanting a group to endorse genocide at the request of the government isn't what white saviorism is. Like, real white saviorism is like those people who do mission trips to Africa and basically like act as colonizers, like what church groups do, that kind of shit. Like, that's what white saviorism is. But I'm a white savior, so I can't get to define white saviorism.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Would you have a better opinion of Big Hit if they change their name to Big Clit Entertainment?
I've already been calling them Big Shit, but then they've changed their name entirely to something else now. Like, not a big thing, it's like something entertainment. I don't know, I don't care.
Oh, right, okay. I remember at one point JYP had minority ownership of Big Hit, as well as Rain and M Black's agency. Is that still a thing? If I recall correctly, 2AM was co-produced by Big Hit.
I don't know the actual specifics of that. It was more like, I think, because Bang Si-hyuk used to work for JYP. Like, if you look at some of the song credits, he wrote for JYP artists and God, I think, at one point. So back in like the first generation groups, etc.
Yep.
And then like JYP and Big Hit had shared trainees. Like Hosok, I think, was at one point kind of in between their systems, because he did a feature for Jokwon back in like 2012. So it might not have been actual ownership that JYP had of Big Hit, but more of a collaboration when Bang separated from being a JYP employee to wanting to have his own company, and then having a good working relationship with JYP, which potentially was what he used to get himself off the ground. So that's my understanding of it. In terms of like that still existing today, I don't think so, because I think that like Big Hit wants to be seen as self-sufficient. It's totally in debt, but that's a different matter entirely. But yeah, it's like they're not really doing the collab thing anymore, because the artists that they were sharing aren't under that either company now. Like, yeah, they don't have anything to share anymore.
All right, cool.
I think. Someone feel free to come in who's not an army.
What's your take on Kpopalypse's theory that daylight savings time was invented to benefit rapists?
I haven't heard that theory. Please enlighten me.
Well, the way I see it is that daylight savings, it sort of gives you a lot of variance late at night, like, but the early morning is always kind of the same, if you know what I mean, in terms of when the sun comes up and when it goes down. So where I live, it's like in the winter and your sun's going down at 6 p.m. It's dark, but if in the summer it'd be going down about 8 p.m. But with daylight savings, then that becomes 9 p.m. So you get this really long. The day takes forever. Hence daylight savings. You get more of the day in summer, which is supposed to be a good thing or whatever. But the flip side is that the opposite happens in the AM. So this difference of 2 hours, where it becomes 1 hour, and I think that a lot of rapes happen in the early morning, and I think that I think they've organised it so rapists can always count on it being very dark at a certain time in the early morning when people are going to work. So
that confuses me, because I was under the impression that a lot of rapes happen like at nighttime, and therefore by making it darker later, it would be almost more beneficial for the opposite situation, because say if I'm walking home at like from the train station, my train gets there at 9 o'clock, and we're running under the assumption of a street attacker rather than the reality that most rapes happen in the home by someone who you already know. I would be less likely to get attacked at 9 p.m. when there is still visible lighting and it's easier to identify someone on camera from that lighting, as opposed to 9 p.m. it's dark, someone can hide in the shadows and jump out at you.
Well, I mean, really, this theory of mine, maybe it needs a little bit of work, but
Just a bit.
I just don't like
Yeah.
I just don't like daylight savings very much. And if I can sort of tie that in somehow, in some way, with enabling people to rape people, I'm just hoping that the government will abolish it.
Shouldn't you move to Western Australia then? I'm pretty sure they didn't like it much.
So, what, rape or daylight savings?
Probably a combination of both.
So it's my hidden agenda to, not very hidden agenda, to smear daylight savings with the tar of, you know, being a rapist enabling system, in the hope that we can abolish it worldwide. I think that's what we should go with. But yeah, I mean, in reality, you're quite right that statistically you're more likely to be raped in your own house with the lights on. So the light outside doesn't really matter a whole lot. But yeah, that's where I was going with that.
Next question.
Yes, next one. Have you considered getting prettier for your birthday via rhinoplasty?
Someone's asking if I want to get a nose job. If they're offering to pay for it.
I have a friend who got one, but that was only because he was in an accident.
Did he get like a little bit taken off the tip or something like that?
Not sure. I honestly don't remember what his nose looked like before. It's not, I don't really pay attention to my friends' noses that much.
Is our listener implying that my current nose is not good enough?
Maybe they are. I don't know.
I don't know. How do they even? I mean, obviously, my face does exist on the internet for them to judge it, but I'm also a bit like, this is a podcast. What does my nose have to do with anything here? It's not like it's a visual podcast.
That's true. But no, I'm not considering a rhinoplasty. I like my nose as is.
Like I just said, if you're offering to pay for it, I'll consider it.
If you're a school kid and the other children found out that your mother was selling nude pics of herself online, do you think that you'd be roasted for it?
Kids these days kids back in my day were pretty awful. I don't know how progressive they are now with a lot of the movements that's been going on. I'd like to hope.
Yeah, I think
they'd be a bit nicer.
it's probably hoping in vain, but
yeah,
but then who knows? I'm not in the schoolyard these days. I wouldn't know.
I think I'd be calling the cops if you were.
I think I'd be rather quarantine myself anyway. I don't want to be anywhere near children.
Yeah, neither.
I spent my whole life trying to avoid being near children. Even when I was a child, I was avoiding being near children.
We've had a lot of preparation for this.
That's right. I mean, and as someone who was like an extreme bully victim, I can say that if you're a bully victim, you're going to get roasted for anything. People, they'll always find something. Doesn't matter what. You can be the most clean living person in the world.
Then that means you're a prude.
Yeah, they'll find something. So you can't evade it by changing your lifestyle or your family being good or whatever. So bullying's symptomatic of people being dicks. It's not symptomatic of
of what your mum does for a living, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a bit like the going back to rape again. It's like the short skirt argument.
Yes.
Whereas it doesn't matter what you're wearing really. If someone wants to rape you, they'll find a way to do it if that's what they want to do, unless they get stopped or whatever. But yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm just not saying it very well. Kind of related. Have you ever been sent dick pics from randoms online?
Not quite. Like, I'm sure there are people who've tried it, but I have like my settings.
Yeah.
that don't enable it. But I do get like weird creeps in my DMs on a semi-regular basis. Like I had one literally, like, again, not a dick pic, but yesterday I had one on Facebook.
I saw this
Basically, of course. Oh no, I had Instagram about a month ago. So it happens like a once a month rate, depending on how active I am on the socials. But yeah, what was it? The one yesterday was like, I added, like, the guy friend requested me. We had one mutual friend and we went to the same uni together. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I guess I'll accept because, you know, what if I actually did know this person or he knows someone who I know, whatever. I don't particularly care that much about Facebook. I don't put identifying information on there very much. Like, there might be a little bit, but it's nothing that I'm, like, super concerned about. Like, anyway, moving on. So accepted the request, and then I get a message, like, on, let's say, Monday. I was like, hey, and I'm like, you gotta give me something more to work with here. I am not a conversation person. Like, if you just, you know, when you can just tell a conversation's really fucking dry and you're just like having to make the effort to talk, just, it's small talk. Small talk's the fucking bane of my existence. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. So if you just slide into my DMs like, hey, how are you? What's up? I'm not going to reply because I just don't give a shit. I don't want to have to force myself to talk to men. I only have to do that on a regular basis when I'm getting paid at work. I don't want to do this in my spare time. Anyway, and for the record, I do have guys who are actual friends, but they're not stupid enough to, you know, we became friends because they talked to me about common interests, not hey. Anyway, next up, so I ignored it. And then I got another one a couple of days later, and again, it was just to get like a hey, I ignored it. And then I got one yesterday that was like, hey, I ignored it. And then he just, like, legit, I am quoting this word for word, he gets red for, like, he gets zine zone for 2 hours, and then he comes back again. He's like, you want some bang bang? Shit, you not.
Bang bang.
So yeah, it's like, I was kind of tempted to just like, has that ever worked? But like, does that ever work for guys? Yeah, I just hit the block button pretty quick after that.
Oh dear. I've never been sent dick pics, but I've known people who've sent them to other people.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, like there's a couple guys who I've known, and I didn't know they did this, but then I heard from other people, oh, that guy sent me a dick pic, and I was like, oh, what?
Why? Like, has it ever worked? You know, you'd think in the history of men sending dick pics and how widespread it is, it would have to be effective for them to be continuously doing it at such a rate. But never in my life have I met another girl who has been like, oh, hi, this is my, like, introducing, like, her boyfriend, like, oh, hey, this is my boyfriend. How did you meet? He sent me a dick pic on the internet. Like, it's never...
Is anyone keeping any stats on success rate?
Ladies, listeners to the podcast in general, have you sent a dick pic and it actually worked before? Alternatively, have you been sent a dick pic and it turned you on before? The only way that, like, I would ever assume this working is if there's some sort of, like, I think we're running on an establishment that this is like an unsolicited dick pic, because I think that there is like a difference in consensual nudes mutually sent. But then again, I think it's like the guy is sending the dick pic in the hope that he's going to get the same kind of nudes back, but no.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it from me if you try that shit, I can tell you that much.
I wouldn't even send one to my girlfriend. Seriously, it's like, you know, I mean, most people, male or female, actually aren't attracted to each other's genitals. You know, it's the secondary sexual things people like, you know. But, you know, the actual, you know, vaginas don't look that great. Penises don't look that great. It's the functionality of these things that is interesting sexually, not the appearance. So, and honestly, one dick looks much the same as the other. You know, I've seen enough dicks to know.
I guess it depends on, like, What was the thing I saw on the internet? Like, it was some sort of joke, like it was a dick pic rating chart that is like, ladies, let's start sending this to all the guys who get in our mentions, kind of like joke thing. And it was like rating it based on length, girth, vein, I don't know. So I'm like, okay.
But that's just going to encourage people to send more of them who do meet the criteria.
Yeah, exactly. But like the idea
is
you just give them like poor ratings to ruin their self-esteem or whatever, so they don't do it again. I believe the idea is probably.
Yeah, I think that's slightly flawed.
Most likely.
But anyway.
Because, people who do that kind of shit are probably just doing it for the attention, whether it's positive or negative.
I think they do it knowing how people are going to react in the first place, surely.
Like the shock factor. Hey, I finally got a reply from that bitch who's been leaving me on Screen Zone. Yeah, because that's totally gonna... That's what's gonna make her interested in you.
If your pet started speaking English, what are 3 questions that you would ask it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just imagining like my dogs being able to understand and speak, and I just want to make sure they know they're good boys. And I love them.
Yeah.
What can I do to make your life better? Because I love you so much.
You're nicer than me. I think I'd ask my cat, do you realise that you're fat?
And the cat would be like, fuck off.
Why do you lick your own veg
Yeah,
in front of my face? I don't want to see that.
Why do you stick your butt in my face?
Stop playing with plastic bags when I'm trying to sleep. It fucking pisses me off. There you go. There's 3 things.
Yeah, I love my boys.
Would you use a transparent toilet?
Oh, is that like the one in Japan? Like, okay, I think we need to assess clarification on this.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's public toilets in Japan where it's like the windows are transparent when you're looking at them from the outside, but then when you go inside, they turn opaque when you lock the door. So
Right.
I assume that's what they're referencing. Like, would you go into a public bathroom that you can look into on the outside, but would you trust it to actually turn opaque? Or like, what if it malfunctions?
Oh, right.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't be keen on using them purely for the reason of like, holy shit, what if it malfunctions? Otherwise, are we assuming that this question is like, would you use a literal clear, like a toilet bowl that's just see-through? So, either way, not really keen.
Well, I mean, I would if that's
If
what
it's
was
the only
available.
one available, you gotta go, then yeah. But I mean, if we're talking preferences on the bowl, would prefer not to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably do it once just to see.
Just for the experience, just so you can say you've done it.
Yeah, that's it. Bucket list.
Mm.
What's your opinion of the TV show Married at First Sight? Also, under what conditions would you consider auditioning for the show?
Have I told you the story about how I got recruited for that show?
No.
Yeah, Married at First Sight is basically it's just trash TV in Australia for anybody who's an outsider listening in. Fun fact, I used to work at a clothing store called Alana Hill, and one of the shops that I worked in, I rotated amongst the different boutiques. So I worked in Chatswood, I worked in Burwood, I worked in the CBD in Sydney, and I also worked in Bondi Junction, which is quite an affluent, bougie area. And one time when I was working, and this was when my hair was like purple as well. It was a really good look for me, I reckon. Kind of like, I vibe with my hair's purple. Anyway, so I was at work doing a regular shift, and part of like working in retail is you have to talk through every person who comes through the door. That's like part of your assessments as a salesperson. And like we had one person come through one day, and like nice enough, gets chatting for a bit, and she introduces herself, and she's like, oh, by the way, I'm also a scouting talent scout for Channel 9. It was basically like, would you be interested in applying for Married at First Sight? And it was kind of like, oh, cool, you think I'm desperate enough to marry a stranger? Thanks. So yeah, I was street cast for Married at First Sight. My first question literally was, do you get paid? And Yes, you do. So for that reason, exactly, I was like, I'm listening. And yeah, she took my number and she took a photo on her phone. So yeah, casting database. But she was interested in getting me on the show, and they made further contact. But I was at uni, and I was kind of like, look, as much as I would love money, because I'm a poor ass uni student, you had to actually dedicate a certain time period to be on the show, because I
Right.
think you got to live together and all that stuff. And I was very close to finishing my degree, so I was just like, look, I've already had to delay my graduation because of surgery shit that needed to be done. So I don't want to delay it even further just for a TV show that I'm not actually invested in. The only TV show I would risk delaying my work or life for is Australian Survivor. So if any casting directors, etc., are listening in, call me.
Why the preference for Survivor?
Because I'm a massive fan of the show. I loved the TV show Survivors in the American one ever since I was younger. Always wanted to be on it. Fun fact, I put it this way, I'm probably not going to get cast for it anyway, so that's why I'm just going to spill all the beans. But I applied for it last year. I managed to get through the screening process, which is when they all the thousands of applications that get sent in, you do like an online application. So I passed that stage. Then there's a webcam interview via Skype, past that stage. And then there was the in real life interview where they get a bunch of people in a room. It's kind of what I had to do to get on Hard Quiz. Same place that the Hard Quiz audition was also held, fun fact. So I was like, oh, good vibes. I'm back in a familiar place. But, I clearly did not get cast from the fact that I wasn't on the show. And I think that is also partially due to the fact that I kind of called them out for tokenistic portrayals of autism by casting the parents of people with autism. So, for example, there was a really popular guy from Survivor. His name is Luke. And he was he was like a really big fan favorite for a lot of people. And part of that stems from him being a father of 2 children who have autism. And no disrespect to Luke as a father, because he's just a dad trying to get some income for his kids, etc. So by all means, do what you want to do to help your family. But as a person with autism, it's actually really fucking insulting that every time I'm watching a reality show, because they've always got to have the character with the sob story, it's parent of child with autism, my life is so hard having an autistic child, which I can sympathize. It is difficult, but as the person with the autism, it's also really shit constantly being spoken about like you're a burden to other people. And it's like, hey, I just want to have some escapism and watch my favorite reality TV show. I don't want to be reminded of how much my parents secretly resent me, but they love me at the same time. But I'm just so difficult to raise. I'm fucking aware of it. I'm aware of it every day of the moment, for all of my life, etc. So I basically had a little rant at the executive producer of Survivor during my application process, and funnily enough, did not receive a call back.
Yay. Yeah, there you
So I
go.
was like, hey, here's your opportunity to cast a person with autism to actually speak for ourselves instead of being spoken about on our behalf. Nah.
Yeah, bit too much, I think, I
Yeah.
guess, for them. So,
Yeah, fuck us in Survivor, but cast me.
you didn't give your opinion about the show anyway, Married at First Sight. I've never seen it, so,
Well, basically,
I mean, the concept sounds like it
it's
sucks.
I introduced it as trash TV.
Oh, I guess, yeah, I
There you
guess.
go. That's the opinion.
But then some people like trash, I mean,
Well, that's exactly it. Do you like trash? It's no judgment here if you do, because I'm sure there's plenty of things that I enjoy that are trash to other people as well. But it's just it's the epitome of trash reality TV.
someone wants to know what's your TikTok account name?
Oh, I literally just have one video, so I barely use it. I just use it to watch TikToks made by other people, but I'll just get it up. It's on my phone now. It's the letter I, full stop, the letter C, full stop, that, full stop, I am, full stop, ICY. So it's IC that I'm IC with the letters I dot and C dot to
Okay,
play on Itzy's IC.
right, okay. I do not have an account. They asked me to answer this too, but I do not have a
Yeah,
TikTok.
I'll send you a link to my account and you can tweet it. So if they
Alright,
following your Twitter, they can see the letters because I.C.that.I'm.IC, but it might be hard to understand that because it's the letter C instead of SEE.
Yeah. Do you like ASMR?
Depends on what it is. So again, autism. So you'd think that sensory experiences would be like, oh, abso-fucking-lutely. I actually had ASMR recommended to me very, very long time ago, back when I was like still a teenager, before it became this trend that it is now. So, I was ASMR before it was popular. But I have had trouble sleeping for like as long as I've existed, and that was just one of the things a doctor recommended to help me sleep. Kinda works for that. Other things work better. Cough drugs. Anyway, so it depends on what type of ASMR we're talking about, because some ASMR I find actually extremely stressful with the reverse effect of what's intended, because it's supposed to be relaxing, but the ones where it's people whispering into the microphone, that fucking triggers the shit out of me. Nah, I can't do it. Like, I just hate it. Like, I get actually very, very stressed. I get stressed by the eating ones. I get stressed by the whispering ones. The whispering ones are the fucking worst. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. So audio ASMR, no go, no dice. Visually,
I didn't know there was a visual.
I don't know. I was just thinking, is there a visual one?
I thought the A in ASMR was audio.
Yeah, there is. Visual ASMR is like videos of, say, for example, watching people cut soap. It's like oddly satisfying things. If you look at like this, oddly
like
satisfying.
Hydraulic Press channel.
Yeah, those are like oddly satisfying things are very satisfying to me. So in that regard, absolutely. And physically, slime.
Yep.
Yeah, I love slimes. Kind of like what IU did for a while. Hopefully she does that again. But rather than watching people, I like to actually play with it myself. Love me some slime.
Okay, cool. I don't really give a crap about ASMR, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. Just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's either your thing or it's not.
I just don't have the brain to give a fuck, I guess. Were you sad when you found out that the scene where Barry Allen, the Flash, is watching Blackpink and Rick and Morty was removed from Justice League Zack Snyder cut?
You are so lucky that I'm literally halfway through watching that film right now. Otherwise, that would have been not a major spoiler, but yeah, I literally am watching that movie. I'm halfway in between it now. I'm now up to it because it's in 6 parts because it's a 4 fucking hour long movie. Hence why I told you I'm going to need recovery time for this. But yeah, and I was watching that scene where Ben Affleck meets Barry Allen, the character's Batman, whatever. And yeah, I was watching it and I'm like, I'm pretty sure in the theatrical version that Blackpink is meant to be playing in the background. And I was like, where's my Blackpink video? So yeah, I was a bit sad about it.
What did they put there instead, or just nothing?
There wasn't anything audibly playing, so I think they were focusing more on the conversations, which does make sense, which therefore would probably imply that it was like a paid UNG or whoever spot in the film as like product placement.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
And I'm like, you can pay for a fucking Justice League product placement in the background, but you can't fucking buy more than 8 songs for the damn album. Get your priorities straight. Yeah, so, as a fan of Blackpink, sure, a little bit disappointed, but, I mean, the movie is probably a little bit better for it in terms of, like, being able to focus on what's happening in the scene.
Cool. I haven't seen the film, so I will pass. But, yeah, if there's any more Justice League questions, I won't ask them to you, just in case there's spoilers.
I mean, it's not really much of a spoiler if I've already seen the original theatrical film anyway, because it's just remaking that film.
Next question. During your teenage years, were you a naughty Ilgin?
Ah, yes, angst. No, I was the one the Ilgins bullied.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think, again, we've already established the fact that we are not the cool kids here, people.
Yeah. Next question. Have you ever used a squat toilet before?
Oh, I deliberately avoided them when I was in Korea. Oh. Like, I just go to the regular, normal toilet.
So there was always a choice? You were never forced?
For whenever I was in that kind of situation where there were squat toilets, which was like public bathrooms, there was also a normal Western equivalent, but no, I would just use that instead. So haven't used one, don't particularly want to.
I haven't been outside of Australia since I was very young, so no, I haven't. I'm sure maybe he's just got taught it when I was like 1 year old. Isn't that what you first get trained on?
I think that's a potty.
Yeah, it's kind of similar in it.
Same difference.
So squat over it and do your thing. Um, Next, which K-pop industry people do you think might be in the Illuminati?
Mm,
Yeah,
I mean,
people
they
should
all
already know
have
what I
those
think.
videos that have those satanic symbols in them. I don't know, that also kind of runs on the assumption that we do think the Illuminati even exists.
Well, I'm here to tell everybody that if the Illuminati exists, it sure as hell isn't in the music industry, because if it was, where's
You
the
probably
fucking
would have run
money?
into it by now.
You can't tell me that some super powerful secret society that secretly controls everything is running the music business, and yet all the musicians, and not only all the musicians, but the majority of the companies are fucking broke. I think the music industry wouldn't be on a decades-long decline and recession if the Illuminati was in power. So all those
Yeah, I was
Illuminati,
going to say the Illuminati would have never allowed Spotify to happen.
yeah, or MP3s, or Napster, or this, or
Etc., etc.
yeah. So yeah, there's no one in the Illuminati apart from a bunch of dead cunts.
Fuck a dead bitch.
Um, oh wow, here's an article.
Do we really want to go there?
Oh, okay. So the question is, do you think the woman is being inconsiderate of her child? Do you think she'll be emotionally damaging her child in the long run? And this is a woman who, um, she joined OnlyFans. This obviously relates to the previous question about OnlyFans, because this is a
Yeah.
woman who joined OnlyFans, and apparently after that, her 11-year-old daughter got bullied for it.
Yeah, kind of like essentially it's just the same thing that we were already talking
Yeah,
about before. If it wasn't for this, then the 11-year-old is probably going to get bullied for something else.
yeah. So let's just move on. Um, yeah, next one's also an article. Do you think the Twitter posters would have the same energy for K-pop dancers? And do you think the dancers would be copyrightable? This is something about,
TikTok dancing
yeah, Addison Rae taught Jimmy Fallon TikTok dances, but basically,
didn't give credit to the originators of each dance. It's been a thing that's actually been an issue for a while. So basically, it's before TikTok wasn't giving credit to dancers, it was Fortnite.
mm,
Because Fortnite has these things where it's like you can make the characters do
dance.
certain dance moves,
Yeah,
and
and
then
then
they
someone
were
did some famous dance from some black guy's rap
yeah,
song.
it's basically like it's a problem, like, and I'm using the word problem lightly. It's just the way that it's being viewed as a problem. It kind of is. It's like you
I
can't
always thought the point
copyright.
of a dance was to, is to get people to dance to it. What's the point of having a dance if only one person can do it?
It's not a matter of other people not being able to do it. It's the matter of the intellectual property wise of it and who's getting the proper credits for it. So if someone else is profiting off something that you've created
Mm.
and then you're not getting a share of that, then yeah, it kind of does seem a bit bullshit.
But you can't really. But
But you
well, it's
can't
never really been
copyright
tested,
choreography
to be
because there's
honest.
only certain limited movements that people can do with their bodies. So yeah,
Yeah, it's. I don't think a dance copyright issue has ever been fully tested in court.
it's
Um,
very difficult. But it's like if you think about, like, for example, a very common dance move that everyone knows, the moonwalk, and then you associate that as Michael Jackson.
mm,
Let's go under an assumption that Michael Jackson does create the moonwalk.
mm,
So Michael Jackson creates the moonwalk, and he's there been able to profit off of that moonwalk. So he's received a lot of, income, attention, etc.
mm,
for that thing that he created. So it's not a bad thing for him because he's getting his, like,
mm.
his juice from it. But it's like the issue that people have these days with like viral trends is, it's very much an intellectual property thing. It's like someone comes up with a whole ass choreography, and then typically, for example, in the case of Addison Rae, she's just a poor imitation of the originator's concept. So it's like someone is becoming, and again, that's all to do with marketability, viral nature of the internet, someone being prettier, objectively, whatever, marketing stuff. Because, like, Addison Rae isn't ugly, but I also don't think that she's the prettiest thing ever. But if you look at a lot of the way that teenagers talk about, or teenagers or young people talk about TikTok artists who they're fans of, and it's very much like K-pop, they think they're gods, they think they're like the best things ever. So if these best things ever are using your content to further their careers and then not giving you any sort of credit for it, that's kind of shit. And I think that's this whole issue that people are talking about with this. So yeah, I think it's shit. And I think that there should be some sort of way to better pay credit to the originators of trends.
Yeah. It's always, that's the tricky thing in general. I mean, if you look at like memes and stuff like that.
Like, I've had my memes stolen so much on the internet, I don't even care. And I've just started stealing other people's in return.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, is more regulation really what we want? Would that actually just stop people in their tracks from even doing dances? I mean, what's the better?
It's all about finding a balance for anything in life, really.
Yeah, I mean, what's a better situation? I don't even know who this Addison Rae chick is, but
she's like the second most followed person on TikTok.
Okay, I've just proven how
possibly
old
coming for first now.
I
don't know. It's not that I intentionally look this shit up. It's just whatever gets put into my newsfeed sometimes, and I'm like, oh, that's who that is. Oh, okay.
I guess I better just quickly look her up.
I mean, yeah, she's 19 or 20, so therefore she's legal and therefore like a bit more, again, legal compared to the current most popular person on TikTok, whose name is Charlie D'Amelio, but she was like 15 or something when she became super popular, and it's like, not that I'm interested in perving on barely legal people like Addison Rae on TikTok to start with, but it's also just a bit even more uncomfortable when you've got someone like Charlie D'Amelio who's doing like wearing crop tops and doing body roll choreography and stuff like that. It's like, I don't want to sexualize a child, but it's also very uncomfortable to see children doing sexualized choreographies and building follower bases from them. And that's like, I generally stay away from that side of TikTok at all costs.
Well, I'll stay away from all of TikTok. I don't even know these people. But anyway.
TikTok can be very good. There's like shitloads of funny videos on there. In some ways, it's the new Vine. And then in other ways, it's like you lose hope for humanity, which I guess does make it the new Vine. Because, yeah, that's what Vine was when that was at its peak, too.
Right. Let's just move on. I've got nothing more to add. Have you ever wanted a horse?
Never like, Daddy, I want a pony. I was never like that obsessed with the idea of a horse. Like, I think they're cool and shit, but like, I was never like a horse girl.
Yeah. I'm not really into horses. My dad actually took me horse riding when I was a teenager. We went to some place that does horse rides or whatever, and but I have a real bad fear of heights, so I didn't really do very well on the horses.
I mean, I went horse riding when I was like 8, and I don't know, it kind of hurts. So I was a bit like, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of hurts me too. Like, your balls sort of get busted and bouncing around on the saddle there. And the thing with horse riding is that it's not like driving a car. You put your foot down on the pedal, the car goes forward. You can tell the horse to go somewhere, and the horse might agree or it might not. It might have some other ideas.
It's a game of chance.
Yeah. So, and it's just a bit too stressful. I gave up after I, had a few incidences with a horse. Just decided to bolt somewhere different.
Ooh, I got like full on kicked by the horse, actually, just like random childhood memory resurfacing. I had a massive horse-shaped bruise on my shoulder for like 3 weeks. Whacked by a horse.
Next question, and I don't know if this is just for you or if it's both. What's the latest on the simp situation? Do you have any yet?
No. Depends. Like,
what about the guy who wanted to bang bang?
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that. I was like, do you count him as a simp? How do we classify our simps, people?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the it's not a word I really like, because it just seems to get trotted out.
Yeah.
It's a very derogatory thing. Um,
Link my new wrestling Twitter in this somewhere so that official Kpopalypse fans can find, and I'll see how many simps sign up to follow my Twitter.
all right, cool, will do. Do Australians actually eat barbecue shrimp and drink Fosters? This,
Fun fact, no, for both, because
they must be
if you're
trolling.
Australian, you don't fucking call them shrimp. They're prawns, cunt. And then Foster's is a shit beer.
No one drinks Fosters.
No one.
Um, oh, this is about when I changed the time of my stream. Did you not stream on Easter Sunday because you're at church? I actually just had something on that Sunday, so I just changed it. But
Take me to church.
thoughts and a link to a tweet. Good, gee, I love these sort of questions. Oh, that's actually cool. I'll send that to you.
Fuck, I gotta sit up now.
Sorry. The cat, how do I pronounce that? Siccio Tombili used to sit in this place. After his death, a small monument was dedicated to him in Turkey. This is a cat just sort of chilling out on a step.
Aww, Siccio Tombili used to say, yeah, it's just a cute cat statue. I love cats. I want a cat.
I have a cat right here, sleeping.
Is it as fat as this one?
Yes.
Oh, I want your cat.
And a lot more fur too. A lot furry, a long hair version of what you're seeing there, pretty much.
I love cats. Cats are great.
Though I don't think the statues really captured the cat's cuteness at all.
I mean, it's a nice thought.
It's a nice thought, but I think they could have done a better job.
Probably. But, I mean, the kind of material that a statue is made from might not be as easy to work with as some other materials like marble.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a statue made out of that metal that has actually really looked accurate before.
True. Next question. When you hear your national anthem being sung, do you cry? Does your heart swell with patriotic feelings?
Yes, when I hear the Veronica is untouched, it does stir me inside. That's the sound of those violins stringing together. I go ooh ooh, you go ah la la la, la la la. We go la 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 la. Wanna get what I want. Don't stop. Gimme what you got. Cause I can't wait. Any more. It's stirring. Little tear in my eye right now.
That sums it up, I think. Next. Disney is releasing a live-action origin story movie for 101 Dalmatians villain, Cruella de Vil.
Cruella de Vil.
Do you find it problematic that there might be a movie that romanticizes a person who wants to skin puppies?
I just thought it was really funny that it's like the trailer. I would suggest watching it because it's something that you can't really describe the full experience of without watching it. But it's like the trailer is kind of framed as she's like, people are intimidated by me because I'm a girl, like hashtag girl boss. And it's like, no, people aren't intimidated you because you're a girl boss. They just hate you because you're demonic. And it's basically like someone on Twitter compared it to Margaret Thatcher. And I was just like, lol. So it's basically like, yeah, trying to make an origin story out of Margaret Thatcher.
Right. Yeah, I mean, who knows though? Maybe when they do the full film, it'll be different. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trailer, so yeah. Exactly.
In the 2013 film Man of Steel, the villain General Zod puts Superman in a situation where he's forced to snap Zod's neck, otherwise he will lather a human family to death. Zod was one of the last Kryptonians in the universe, other than Superman himself. Even if he was more or less a superpowered space Hitler, do you think that Superman did the right decision in killing Zod?
The most wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. The tops are made of rubber, the bottoms are made of springs. They're bouncy, 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 fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about Kryptonians is I'm the only one. That's just what I think of. Like Superman singing the Tigger song as he like assassinates the only other person of his kind.
Um,
I don't know. Is there much else opinion on this?
I'm just reading it like it's like a catch-22, but without the catch-22. Like, why wouldn't he kill him?
Because he's the only other one like him. And I'm like, well,
Well,
if
who
you're the only
cares?
other one like me and you're shit, I don't want you representing my species.
He just made the species 50% better. I
Yeah,
was like, where's the downside?
yeah.
Who cares if he's only one of the last? Fucking, who gives a fuck?
Mm.
Anyway, move on. Okay, here's another film one. We've got some seriously film-obsessed asker.
I don't know. I don't
There's
mind
all
that.
these
I don't mind
superhero films too that I've never fucking seen that I don't give a fuck
that. Okay.
about. So all these questions completely exclude me. But anyway, I'll read it out anyway. Um, in the 2016 film Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Oh, hang on. Um, you haven't seen all this film yet, have you?
No,
No.
this
All right,
is
we'll
no,
skip
no,
it.
no, no, no. Justice League is the one I haven't seen all of. I have seen this
Oh, you
one,
have seen this one.
but from memory, it was so boring I can't remember it.
Well, there's going to be a memory refresher for you. In Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, Superman is portrayed using Christ-like imagery by director Zack Snyder.
Oh yeah.
In the film, Lex Luthor sees Superman as a godlike being. In the film, Luthor's backstory was that as a child he was a victim of beatings from his father, so he prayed to get his father to stop, but those prayers were never answered. Essentially, Luthor's motivation for wanting to kill Superman is to get revenge on God.
Mm.
Luthor is essentially a petty, angry atheist man-child.
Yes.
What's your opinion of this film's incarnation of Lex Luthor?
I mean, it's essentially what you've just already described it as, in the sense that he's just, a petty child who's trying to seek revenge, but on an entity that wasn't responsible for the root cause of the problem.
Mm,
And ultimately, that I think that's very similar to what Kylo Ren was in the Star Wars new trilogy as well.
mm,
So yeah, it's not like, and I know you haven't seen those either, but again, it's like that kind of makes sense why you don't watch them, because at the end of the day, they all kind of just blend together with the same.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Okay.
So yeah, it was not a bad thing. It's just been there, done that.
Yeah. Cool, cool. Your opinion on naengmyeon, both the cuisine and the SNSD song?
Ah, isn't that like jjajangmyeon? No, that's what I'm thinking. Jjajangmyeon
No, you're
is
thinking of
the
Jung
black
Jum Jop
noodle.
Jop or whatever. Exit. Um, hang on, I'll bring up.
I mean, it's familiar.
Yang Naengmyeon.
Nyang. Nyangmyeon.
Mm.
Nyangmyeon. Korean noodle dish of long and thin handmade noodles from flour. I mean, I love me some noodles. Yeah, I've had this before. It's good.
I can't remember if I've had it or not. Um,
Yeah, I had a housemate who was Korean, and it's Naeng, not Nyang. So fun fact. But yeah, good stuff.
Korean
Good stuff.
cold noodles. Yeah, I don't like cold anything.
Yeah, I'm not usually
Like,
into cold noodles,
if you're gonna
but like when
cook,
my
heat it up.
housemate made it, it was nice.
Um, and I don't know if I've heard the SNSD song actually.
No, I
Um,
haven't
and
either.
I can't play it because copyright. So, move
Mm.
on. What are your top five coffee shop subgenre K-pop songs?
Oh fuck. I don't even know coffee songs off the top of my head,
Yeah, I
so
tend
I can't even name
they've
five
asked
of
me
them.
to answer as well, but I don't know if can I even remember five? Fuck,
Well, we were able to just come up with milkshake songs out of the top of my head the other day, so it's interesting that we're struggling for coffee ones,
that's
but
because milkshake songs are good. Coffee ones are always
yeah.
boring.
Yeah, coffee shop songs are all just very acoustic, and we
Yeah,
generally don't vibe with that.
yeah, it's like I
We
mean,
want bangers here, people.
yeah, that's it. What's the move? I'll spend all day thinking of it. I can't do it. Let's move on.
Mm.
Um, What's your opinion of this concept? It's an article. The Beat Hazard 3 will map your music collection to an explorable galaxy. Um,
Ooh.
the context, the first Beat Hazard is a space shoot 'em up game similar to Asteroids, where the enemy types, enemy counts, power-ups available, etc. were generated when you loaded your music tracks into the game.
Hmm.
Beat Hazard 3 is obviously an iterative advancement of this idea.
Interesting. I think we've established before that I'm not a gamer just because I'm poor and like can't afford to um, keep up with all the releases and shit. I mean, it sounds like a cool concept, and I like. My friend plays. I think it's. Well, they play two of those. One of them's Saints Row,
Mm.
and then the other one is Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
And I can't remember which one of them it is, but it like lets you include your music in the game as like personalized radios on the cars that you jack, and it's
Yep.
like, yeah, that's fun.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like a little bit of personalization in their
Yeah.
gaming experience?
Um, yeah, I think it's an interesting idea, but but what sort of relation does it have to if it's just using your music as a random seed to generate something else, it's completely unrelated to your music. I don't really see how that makes a game any better or worse than if they just use random numbers of any other type. Um, so yeah, I guess I'd have to see it in action, but
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know if I give a crap enough to be bothered. Um, who do you think will be the fourth generation kings? The big groups right now are TXT, who with big hits support might break into America easily, thanks to Scooter Braun's Ithaca. SKZ, who have a seriously devoted fandom and have good amount of
That's Stray Kids for anyone wondering.
serious devoted fandom and a good amount of casual listeners, and ATs, which is growing every single comeback.
Can I go out on a limb here and just say no one? Down with men. No, seriously, the reason that none of them are going to be like the next king is kind of like why A-Pink wasn't the next big girl group or why Infinite wasn't the next big boy group at their time.
Mm.
They were both very popular, but they were also in a cross time zone, I guess, from when there was someone pre-existing who was already bigger than them versus a gap in the market for someone new to come up.
Yeah.
And shit like this is so luck and sensitivity based. So, for example, Infinite debuted in 2009. No, 2010. 2010. I know my own faves.
Mm.
Yeah, so Infinite debuted in 2010 and then kind of really hit big around 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
But the next market for a top boy group between Big Bang, who was right at the top and like massive when Infinite were kind of building success,
Mm.
and then the market opened up for the next big thing, which became EXO, and EXO exploded 2013.
Yep.
So Infinite were just slightly a wrong timing versus shit management. Thanks a lot, William. Because William sold them out to SM, and then I reckon there was some sabotage thrown in there, which is how EXO kind of was able to take that top spot without much competition, because Infinite could have been a much bigger threat than what they ended up being to EXO.
Mm.
But that's another question. Same kind of deal with A-Pink. It was like SNSD was such a huge thing for such a long time. Like they had G, and then anything from G through to The Boys, and as much as we hate that song, I Got a Boy was a big hit. So Girls' Generation really were the nation's girl group for such a long time that when A-Pink debuted, I think A-Pink debuted right around the same time Infinite did, so it would have been around 2010. SNSD was still at their peak, so there wasn't a spot for them to come in and take over from them. And then by the time that a spot opened up, it was 2015, so it was a bit longer because that's when Twice and to an extent as well, G-Friend and also Blackpink and Red Velvet, the four of them have kind of, you know, gone between who was the bigger person or the bigger group at different stages. So, yeah, like A-Pink were too early, Infinite were too early. Right now, all of the groups that are existing, as much as, like, you know, we hate the fan base, BTS are just on the level that Big Bang were when
Hmm.
BTS debuted in 2013. They were lucky enough to be in a really good in-between time zone that allowed them to kind of fit into when a new group would come through. I think that it's not going to be the groups that are here now. It'll be groups potentially debuting about now to, as much as armies are going to have a fit over this, when BTS go to the military, because that was exactly what happened with Big Bang.
Yep.
So, yeah, when...
So none, in other words.
None
what you're trying to say.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what I was trying to say from the very beginning. I flat out said none. And then I went into more detail on why.
All good. Yeah, I don't really care about these sort of questions about popularity of groups. Doesn't really affect me.
Neither, because, I talk about it in an analytical sense, but it doesn't affect how much enjoyment I get out of the groups that are my favorites. So, for example, I was talking about GFriend, Red Velvet, Twice, and Blackpink, who I am a fan of all 4 of those groups, as much as people might like to think that I have antied one or all of them at different stages of my life. Like, for example, GFriend, if you include them in the conversation now, all the other 3 will just laugh at you like, oh, haha, GFriend is so irrelevant. But at the height of Rough being the smash that it was, huge. GFriend, for a moment of time, whether that time still exists now, is irrelevant, because for that time period that Rough was out, they were the biggest, because Blackpink didn't even exist at that point, and then Twice had only had one song, whereas that was GFriend's 3rd song, and Red Velvet was still kind of like establishing themselves as well. So for one point, GFriend was the biggest out of those. Then Twice came along and kind of Cheer Up was one big smash, and then TT was another big smash, so there was a whole fan war between Twice and GFriend for a while, because Twice was then becoming the next more popular thing than GFriend. That didn't affect my enjoyment of GFriend. It also didn't affect the fact that I enjoyed Twice as well.
I guess
now, if we're talking about right now, I would say that Blackpink is the biggest seller or the biggest group out of that. That doesn't mean I'm no longer a fan of Twice. It doesn't mean I'm not a fan of GFriend. I still enjoy them, and I'm happy for Rosé, because Queen shit.
I guess what I'm saying is that not only does it not affect my enjoyment, but it also, I just don't have any interest in tracking the popularity of these groups. The only reason why I know who's popular is because other people tell me. I don't sit there going, oh, they're big now, or oh, they're flopped, or whatever. I just all that just flies over my head.
I mean, I wouldn't say I track it. Again, it's just shit that comes up in my Twitter feed, and it's more like, oh, I'm glad that you're big. Hopefully that means you're making some money for yourself. You deserve it.
Yeah, well, it's always the hope, I guess. Since you live in Australia, have you been in similar situations like this? And this is, you've probably seen this because it's gone viral. This is of this wild bobcat that attacked a man.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
I've seen the video, and
we don't have bobcats in Australia.
No,
but I guess our equivalent would potentially be magpies. It could also be kangaroos, but rather than, like, some kangaroos are violent.
Yeah.
But so if you go into their territory or wherever, they rise up and they're fucking like massive, 8 feet tall when they're on their hind legs, for our American friends. But for me, my experience of being attacked by a kangaroo was when I was driving and one leaps out at your car. So if you're driving at nighttime, animals are stupid and they are attracted to bright, shiny things like headlights. And yeah, one time, could have died when a kangaroo just like leapt out at me on a windy back road in the bushland area. But I just, like, put it this way, if I had have swerved to miss the kangaroo, probably would have died. In retrospect, that probably would have been for the best. But I am essentially a psychopath and just legit just kept driving straight and just bang, and then kept driving.
Well, that's just the best way to deal with it, really. You should never swerve.
You don't swerve, because that'll send you straight off the road. And yeah, if it's natural selection, the animal that jumps out in front of you because of the shiny lights,
that's it.
That's the one that's going to cop it.
Yeah, I've seen that American video, and I really didn't like the video because he gets his gun out, and it's like, really?
Really? I didn't see the gun part.
Yeah, at the end of the video, once he's thrown the bobcat, then it runs off back under the car or whatever, and he gets his gun out, and he's just like, I'm going to shoot that fucker or something like that. And it's just like, come on, bloody... What's with Americans? They got to fucking shoot everything.
Well, it could be feral, so it's more like that's the thing is bobcats from like I did a quick amount of research from reading. I'm like, what the fuck is a bobcat and what's the difference between a normal cat?
Mm.
So bobcats are very unlikely to actually attack people unless they are feral. So
Mm.
that's probably why get the gun to take it out because it could be infected with rabies,
Mm.
which therefore makes it a danger to other people.
Oh yes, but yeah.
But yeah, get my gun.
um.
The American way.
Um. Have you ever been harassed by eshays in public? That's spelled Eshays.
Well, I know what an esche is.
I don't know. I don't know what this is. This person's linked a whole article that explains it.
I mean, esches are kind of just like the British word for bogans, but it's like they're kind of different to bogans a bit. Like, I guess bogans are more Australian. Like, can a VB and a tinny and can I give me a fucking durry, that kind of shit. Whereas esches are a bit more like lads, like kind of, I guess, like designer stuff and vapes.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this. Is I think the article, does your child wear a bum bag, speak in pig Latin, and get into strife at the train station?
Yeah, that's an esche.
There's, we've had various subcultures in Australia for years and years and years. I don't see
This
why
is
this
a
is
kind
any
of
different
newish
from anything
one.
else.
Yeah, it's just a newer word for the slight behavioural changes.
The rise of the esche is reportedly striking fear into middle-class parents worried their children want to emulate a dangerous subculture.
Is this a Daily Mail?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
You can't tell, can you?
No.
Oh dear. Some eshays engage in robberies, assaults, and other threatening behaviour. Well, so do some bloody grandmothers.
Mm.
So what? Stupid article. Let's move on. What's your opinion of Tullamarine, Victoria? Have you ever been there?
I just know I've heard the name before.
I don't. I've never been
Oh,
there.
it's one of those, like, you get two different airports in Victoria.
Right.
So, have you ever been, like, if you've ever been to Melbourne, do you get the plane that goes to Avalon or Tullamarine?
Oh fuck, I don't know.
I just know that Melbourne has really shit public transport in terms of trains versus trams because there is no train to the fucking airport and you have to catch like a coach
Get
bus.
the Sky Bus. Yes.
So yeah, I haven't been to, assuming that the airport was Tullamarine,
Mm,
I still don't have a fucking opinion on it other than it needs a goddamn train station.
yeah. Yeah. I'll second that. Do you have any idea why Little Seven looks insecure with other groups' achievements that puts other groups above opposite group? Other group debut song is doing better in chart. Let's pick a fight with them.
I mean, this is just generic army insecurity that's existed for years.
Yeah.
Because kind of like what I was just talking about before in terms of the reason all these other new groups coming up won't be more popular
mm,
or won't be the next big thing is because BTS is still currently the big thing.
yeah.
So, of course, they're going to be threatened by potentially more popular groups because it therefore means that BTS isn't the big thing anymore. So that's what they're essentially afraid of.
Yep.
So for now, BTS still is that next big thing. But if life will teach you anything, it is that nothing lasts forever. And as much as they love to live in absolute denial over the inevitable, one day, everyone was saying a few years ago that it was going to be a few years later and they're still popular now. So therefore it can't ever possibly happen. But one day BTS just might not be the big thing. There might not actually be 40-year-olds and still
Popular.
releasing music every 5 months with a fandom of 12-year-olds.
Next one, marriage plans with me specifically. This person hasn't told us who they are, so
yeah.
I was just thinking I might just dump my girlfriend and get married to someone who randomly asked me to on my on the question box for the podcast, and you could have had it, but you didn't put your name or contact details in, so you miss your chance.
I'm just like thinking of that video on The Simpsons where like Homer's like when they're trying to give this like them a new identity and they're the Thompsons and there's like tapping the foot. He's like, I think he's talking to you. So yeah, I think he's talking to you or whoever is in the DM for that.
Well, maybe they mean they want to marry you. I don't know, but still, we
No,
don't know who
but
they
I think he's talking to you. It's your blog. They're trying to marry you, buddy.
are. Nothing much. But what do you both think about the song "Hell in Heaven" by Twice?
Oh, I didn't hate it.
I can't remember how it goes.
It's one of their newer songs from
Right.
like the full length
I
album.
probably haven't heard it even.
They have some decent B-sides. Like Twice are a group that tends to get shat on by K-pop Twitter for like not having good music outside of their title tracks because the title tracks are the ones to go viral.
Hmm.
But they have a few gems in their B-sides, I must say. Like I really, really love their song Rollin', which was from their first album.
Hmm.
And, you know, in their B-sides, they might not be my favorite B-sides of all groups who release albums, but there's like they do have some shockers in there, but there I would say are better, like more good songs
Hmm.
than bombs. So they have a few solid B-sides.
Hmm.
Worth listening to Twice.
Hmm. Do you think there is any other K-pop groups that exist today that have the potential to break out in the West? And is it a good idea to try? This is obviously excluding BTS and Blackpink.
Yeah, I was really just going to say Blackpink is the biggest,
Hmm.
like, potential, you know, I'm using air quotes here when I say threat to whatever BTS are doing. I don't know. I think that Twice's song, I Can't Stop Me with the English version,
Hmm.
was a good song. I really, really liked that. And I still listen to it, and I've got it on my work playlist as well.
Hmm.
Likewise with you ranked it really highly because I fucking told you to listen to the song and then you liked it and I was like, I fucking told you so. But
Hmm.
Luna and Star,
Hmm.
like that's a great song.
Yeah,
The
well, that's
reality
actually.
of the music industry, as we both know,
Hmm.
is it's not inherently about quality, which is sad, but the reality, it's not about the quality, it's about the marketability, and it's also about the skills of the team who are marketing the group and the act and the song, etc.
Hmm.
So JYP has no fucking clue what they're doing with any potential artists. Like ITZY, for example, they released an English EP for English remakes of their songs, and then like did no promotion of them, and then the video that they released was a fucking Zapito,
Hmm.
which are those little anime characters, little 3D character thingies
Hmm.
that you can make on your phone as like Sims. Ugly, ugly shit. So I'm like, that's your fucking crossover into the English market? That is abysmal. Again, kind of sad because, you know, maybe some of those songs could have worked with proper promotion. And Twice is performing on the Kelly Clarkson show like 4 months after the English version of that song came out, and then they're performing a different song anyway. It's like, what the fuck is JYP doing? So, as I'm sure we already established years ago with the attempt with the Wonder Girls, JYP doesn't know shit about what to do for the American market.
Hmm.
And I would actually argue that Bang Shi-hyuk learned exactly a blueprint of what not to do from his time in JYP.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know, are there artists who have the potential and could do well if they had proper marketing? Absolutely, because plenty of popular artists throughout history
Hmm.
haven't been the most skillful or the most talented or had the best music. It's all just been about the rollout process. So I also argue that Rosé's solo should have been more successful than what it was. And I'm sure Blinks will argue that it was successful. And it was. Like,
Hmm.
it's like the highest album sales of a female soloist in Korean history. It's like 500,000 copies. Good for her. Good for her.
Hmm.
But I argue that song had so much crossover potential and should have charted much, much higher with much, much more radio play on US and Australian charts. And I would also very likely think that that is partial sabotage because they don't want her becoming more popular than Blackpink as a group, because then it leads to division and all that kind of shit.
Hmm.
But yeah, that song, like Olivia Rodrigo, who's like the next it girl in pop music, she had that #1 song Driver's License that just came out. That was her debut song, came out of nowhere and just topped charts everywhere for like 6 weeks. The song isn't terrible, but it's also not the greatest thing I've ever heard either. And I think that Rosé's solo could have easily been as on par with that. And she has high physical sales and streaming sales to kind of back that up. but she wasn't given the proper marketing and support from the company. So again, it's all to do with that, and it's always going to be an issue if it's individual versus like a solo versus a group. So for example, Rosé would have been held back because they're focusing on her group, and Blackpink in general, it's like they can pay, like YG can pay for that little feature in Justice League, but they couldn't give them any other songs in 2017. That's probably where all the budget went. But like, you know, they had a collab with Cardi B in their last album. That was actually quite a good song, Bet You Wanna. And there was like rumors that that song was going to be sent to radio with a music video, and then literally nothing happened from it. I'm like, that would, like, this was right after WAP was such a fucking big song. So if they had a collab, like done a proper collab or promotion with Cardi B, who just had a massive #1 single, that could have really been the thing to launch Blackpink as a #1 song group. But nothing. So it's baffling. So until K-pop in general stops being so stupid,
Yeah, nothing's going to happen.
it's a long way off.
Yeah.
And, you know, the biggest group, as we know, is BTS, and the song Dynamite, they have done so much better in their career than that song. So, again, it's not based on the actual talent or the actual song quality. I mean, if you think Dynamite is BTS's best song, don't fucking talk to me ever.
Here's a question from someone. I've been meaning to ask this to you both since the podcast mentioned English lyrics in K-pop songs, but I couldn't word it well at the time, so I ended up giving up. How much do you guys think being a native speaker of English, the, in quotes, universal language, influences on your opinion of K-pop songs that have cringy English in it? I'm not a native speaker of English, and I don't know Korean, so I definitely get the weird feeling of suddenly listening to something that at the same time makes sense for you, but it actually doesn't because the lyrics suck. But I can dismiss it very easily because it's just another foreign word. The lyrics in Korean could be cringy as well. It doesn't affect my opinion on the song at all. I do feel a bit uncomfortable towards any song in my native language, good or bad lyrics though, but I don't think I would be that uncomfortable if it suddenly popped up in some K-pop song.
I'd be really interested to know what that person's native language is. Like, if we're assuming, like, let's pretend it's Spanish, then you could think about Me Gustas too for G friend and like that little inclusion. But that's a really good question. Yes, absolutely, it is massive. Like, for example, ITZY's English EP that I was just talking about before. There's a couple songs on there where the English works, and it's like you can tell that the song was originally in English for the demo. And I would assume that was Icy. Like, Icy sounds pretty good in English. But the song Wannabe, which still is my favorite ITZY song that they've done. Not that they have that many to choose from, but I just think it's a brilliant song. There were parts of it that became very awkward when it was in English. And I was half expecting it to actually be better in English, because there are parts in the Korean song where there's English lines that maybe think, oh, that fits so well. Maybe the original demo was in English. But if the demo was in English, it was a very shitty demo. So yeah, like, that absolutely does affect my perception of it. Kind of like with Dynamite, those lyrics in those songs are just really, really shit. Like, what the fuck is King Kong, wake up in the morn, cup of milk, let's rock and roll? Like, what the fuck is that? That is so terrible. It totally affects my ability to enjoy it, but clearly not for the millions of people who bulk bought 44 versions of the same single to inflate it on the charts. Totally organic. Anyway. Yeah. I also have, I would call myself conversational at best in Korean. So I have vague understanding of Korean lyrics, but not enough to the point that it bothers me. And so for exactly that reason, maybe the lyrics of Wannabe are just as equally cringe in Korean as they are when I heard that translation into English. But I don't care because it's not fluency level. So therefore I can just enjoy the song as a banger, because it is a banger.
No, I understand. Yes. I think, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I sort of became drawn to K-pop music in the first place, is because I couldn't understand a lot of the words. And, I mean, pop music lyrics generally are not very good. And that's just across the board globally, right? You know,
there's a really, like, sorry to interrupt, but there's, like, a really good comparison of, like, Maroon 5 when they first started, is, like, their album Songs About Jane versus the lyrics from current albums. It's such a huge difference. it's baffling to me. But I think someone kindly just put it as what they were putting out when they actually cared about music and were trying to become successful versus now that successful they can do any shit they want because they've already made their money, so they don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like if you read the song lyrics to Harder to Breathe, like there's some really clever, I don't know if it's clever, but it's like decent structure, interesting word choice. And then if you compare it to like the shit from Payphone or like anything that they've done in the last 3 years, it's just abysmal.
Yeah. Cool. What was I saying? But yeah, most pop lyrics in general are bad.
Because it's easier to sing along to and remember. It has to be memorable.
Oh, well, partly that, and partly just I think it's just hard to write good pop song words, to be honest. And to have a good concept. I mean, it doesn't always, a really good concept and lyrics don't is probably something that doesn't come to the top of everyone's head straight away. Um, but for whatever
I'm
reason,
good at writing lyrics. Someone hire me.
um, yeah, because Australian Sana isn't writing many pop lyrics, most of them are bad, and um,
This, but unironically.
um, but yeah, so I don't really come into any expectation of pop music's lyrics being good. I don't care, but hearing really, really bad lyrics is kind of annoying. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's in another language, it's like, oh, cool, I can ignore it, which
Mm-hmm.
I actually enjoy. So, and so I don't actually have any desire. A lot of people get into pop music in Korean. They go, "Oh, learn Korean so I can understand it." I don't want to understand the words. So I could.
Nah, I want to stay fucking ignorant as shit so I can keep enjoying it.
That's right. Um, all right. Next question.
1 second, I've actually got the lyrics of Maroon 5 up so I
Oh
can like
no,
explicitly go into it. So, for
no,
example,
don't do
the
this.
first verse, it says, "How dare you say that my behavior is unacceptable, so condescending, unnecessarily critical. I have the tendency of getting very physical, so watch your step because if you do, you'll need a miracle." Interesting, good rhyming for 4 straight lines. "You drain me dry and make me wonder why I'm even here. The double vision I was seeing is finally clear. You want to stay, but you know very well I want you gone. Not fit to fucking tread the ground that I am walking on." Again, decent, like, flow, nice, like, rhyming patterns. And then you get to Girls Like You, which was released in 2018. "Spent 24 hours. I need more hours with you. You spent the weekend getting even. Ooh. We spent the late nights making things right between us. But now it's all good, babe. Roll back Roll that backward, babe, and pay me close, 'cause girls like you run around with guys like me till sundown when I come through. I need a girl like you, yeah, yeah. Girl like you love fun, and yeah." You compare that lyric quality.
Yeah, did you have to subject us to that? I tried to stop you.
But the funny thing is, Girls Like You would have charted higher than Harder to Breathe. So again, being shit pays off.
Let the record show that I tried to stop Australian Sana from reading out Maroon 5 lyrics, but she did it anyway.
If I have to suffer, so does everyone else.
To Australian Sana, what do you feel about people saying that you are a Taehyung solo stan? Hence, why all your BTS hate tweets have been about Namjoon particularly, whom all Magnate line solo stans hate, and also other members like Jungkook and Hoseok, but never about Taehyung.
Taehyung solo stan is like kind of true, half true. It's like he's the one I care the most about and I'm most invested in. Doesn't necessarily mean I hate everyone else in the group. When it comes to Namjoon, he cops the brunt of it because he's the one who speaks for them. Like, he put himself in that position when he made himself the leader, and, you know, he's also their English representative. But it's like, he's the one who went on record to defend the Saudi concert, so he's gonna be the one that I, like, you know, roast the shit out of for doing that. And there's also been things like, if you look at the sales of individual members when they have, like, merchandise or things like that, Big Hit go to very, I wouldn't say very extreme, but pretty big measures to, like, prevent people from actually being able to see certain sales because they don't want the individual fans realizing how much more profitable certain members are than others, specifically Taehyung and Jungkook fans, because they sell by far the most in the group. So when they were individual magazine covers, I remember this from like reading about a Taehyung fan base. I'm pretty sure it might have been a Jungkook fan base, but you get the idea. It was one of the two big sellers. Um, they wanted to know the individual sales for member-specific magazine covers when BTS did. I think it was like I can't remember what magazine, Wall Street Journal maybe. Let's just pretend it was that one. So they wanted to know who sold the most, and then the magazine literally like was the fan base contacted the magazine, and the magazine replied that they legally could not diverge the sales because it was part of the contract with Big Hit not to specifically say who sold the most, who sold the least. But there's been instances where individual merchandise in Japan, be it like pictures or like you know those fans that people have, like the little waving fans. Like Taehyung outsells everyone massively in Japan. Jungkook's very close to him, then Jimin, and then like there's a big gap between the Maknae line and the Hyung line, and Namjoon is always at the bottom. So that's why a lot of solo stans dislike Namjoon. And there's a bit of a perception that because he's also the leader and he's the closest with Bang Shi-hyuk, so he's the one who's able to get in his ear and kind of like, you know, he approves stuff on behalf of the group. So he's the one who has the say for the group. So by him kind of holding Taehyung and Jungkook back, it's beneficial for his career because without Taehyung and Jungkook in the group, he therefore becomes less successful because as a group pack, like it's kind of like the perception, it's the way capitalists describe communism in the sense that it's like it's only beneficial for the people at the bottom because the people at the top are doing all the heavy lifting. So it's kind of like that in the group for, you know, assuming hypothetically this situation with Namjoon and why he's the unpopular one amongst solo stans is because of the perception that he is the one that's holding the popular solo members back.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and then there's kind of things to back it up in the sense of like how many mixtapes has Namjoon released? He's released 2, and Jungkook and Taehyung have released 0. And the actual concept of a mixtape is specific to rappers. But if BTS are to have solo projects, they have to be free mixtapes. And who does that benefit? That benefits the rappers because they're mixtapes, because they're the ones who actually release mixtapes. Meanwhile, a solo artist like Taehyung or Jungkook, they should be releasing a proper solo album like virtually every other K-pop artist has. Like Wendy just released her solo, Rose just released her solo.
It's a lot easier to release a mixtape though.
Yeah. Well, I'd say why aren't they releasing proper solos? Because Big Hit don't want to invest in anyone as an individual. It is very much a group package for that group. And when you're in a deal like that, that's going to be beneficial to the members who aren't popular, but it is restricting the potential of the ones who are the most popular, which in this case is Taehyung and Jungkook.
Cool. Do you think that the Burning Sun scandal has changed even a little how the fans view their idols in the K-pop industry?
God, you'd fucking hope, but...
How did you react or what were your thoughts when the scandal broke out? Did some of your views or opinions change because of it?
Well, personally, it was just like, it wasn't a surprise because it's the kind of thing that you're already aware is happening in the industry. Yeah. It just became a specific situation that you could reference. And it's just, you know, it kind of makes you lose faith in humanity when you see people who are Big Bang stans going out of their way to defend it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't change my opinion or anything because, yeah, I pretty much assumed that was happening, and it just really just confirmed what I already felt, which is, you know, just generally how I feel when I find out about a lot of K-pop stuff in general. BTS didn't get a Grammy, but they did get a McDonald's meal. So are any of you going to try it out when it comes out?
I've looked at what the McDonald's meal is, and it's pretty much what I already order anyway. It's 10 McNuggets. But apparently it's just like a different dipping sauce.
Oh, right. Okay.
Not gonna lie, high-key autism, so, well, that means, like, I'm super picky on stuff, and I usually have tomato sauce, so whether I'm willing to change my routine order, I don't know. Maybe. Do we get stuff?
I don't go to McDonald's.
That's what I want to know. Is there a photo card? Is there a Happy Meal?
I don't go to McDonald's. I don't care about BTS, so I'm unlikely going to be going to that. Big Hit changed in name a building, and from what I saw, they've started to find other ways to make profit outside of BTS. So, Sana, what are your thoughts on those changes, or maybe you just don't care anymore?
Kind of just don't care anymore.
Yep.
And whatever income they are generating outside of BTS would not even be remotely close to what BTS would still be making them.
Cool.
So it's like obviously I want them to fucking find some income outside of BTS because it therefore would likely mean that BTS would probably start being, using air quotes, replaced, which therefore leads them to have more individual freedom.
Hmm. Last question. Quick guess: which BTS member is going to be the first to be caught in an illegal escort bar?
Good guess. Jungkook was probably close with the Itaewon scandal, so
Hmm.
either that means um he is more likely to get caught because he's already been close, or he's the least likely because that kind of scared him off doing it again because that, like, he was like, oh shit, I came close, I can't do it again. So
Means you'll just be more careful.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I wouldn't know. But yeah,
they're probably all freaks on the side.
yeah. All these BTS questions, I don't give a fuck about that group. Sorry.
Mm.
Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Um,
How long was this one for?
we are clocking in at over 2 hours now, I think. Um, not sure. A while.
Yeah. Oh well, this will be uploaded
Yeah,
eventually.
2 hours exactly, pretty much. 2 hours and 1 minute.
Cool.
So I'll get around to it at some point. I'll upload it.
Yeah.
Thanks for participating. Guys, send questions in. Questions that don't suck would be great if you can manage it. But if
Yeah.
not,
I mean, I'm still surprised that anybody actually gives a shit about my opinion on anything. So
but questions that do suck, we'll still answer them as long as they're not truly bad.
we are a charitable bunch.
Yes, yes, yes. And sorry if anyone's expecting Australian Sana to be drunk, but
Pay me next time.
yeah, but you're gonna have to start shelling out the dosh for the alcohol.
Mm.
In Australia, alcohol is actually very expensive compared to a lot of other countries.
Yeah, taxes.
Yeah, it's heavily taxed by the government. It is not cheap. So, um,
Fund my alcoholism.
yeah. So if you're willing to buy, we're willing to get drunk. Well, she is.
Hmm.
I'll give my share to her.
Yay.
All right. Thank you, and talk to you next time. And
Yeah.
good luck. And I'll link your wrestling Twitter.
Thank you.
No worries. Bye.
Bye.